We are back in Dallas, Texas, that is, as if there was ever a doubt. And Michael Katz, the professor, and Connor O'Gara. When are you going to become a professor?
Well, now I feel like I got to get on that. I mean, this guy is over here just teaching the youth of America all the great things they need to know about journalism. I need to step up my game.
For the record, he never said teaching them well.
I had one of your students hit me up a couple of weeks ago and say, hey, I heard you when you spoke to Professor Katz's class.
Gee, Michael came on my show before he was about to teach a class, and I thought, does he have to be smarter now or after the fact? And I think the answer was probably after the fact. You don't have to be smart to come on Saturday Down South podcast, but he successfully did both.
By the way, that's an indicator that you're not very smart if you go on that podcast.
Very true. Great point.
I've made that turn once or twice.
You've been mostly smart, though, I think. I don't think that you give yourself enough credit for the takes that you bring to the table. And when you go on other people's airwaves, like, you bring it. There's a reason that they keep asking you back.
Okay. I wondered. By the way, you're both here, and everybody has different opinions on this event. Today, I want to go back to the commissioner because that's always a big moment. Sometimes you have to listen, interpret. What did you take from your top takeaway from Commissioner Sankey?
I think for me, it was there was definitely an emphasis on focusing on the current 16, as opposed to there's been a lot of talk about potential additions maybe coming. It seemed very clear that was not a focus right now, and of course that's probably the right thing to say, especially right now as you get 2 new teams in there. But I think that it was very clear.
Did we expect him to say, by the way, that, oh, yeah, we're going to go raid the ACC?
No, of course not. But I think it was I think there's just this feeling of excitement for Texas and Oklahoma here, and I think you felt that from all of the different teams here. Everyone was talking about just what it's going to be like to play at those stadiums and those programs and prestige they bring. It's you don't get a reaction out of every coach, but when you mention going to play in Austin, Texas, or Norman, Oklahoma, that's something they get excited for.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's the story of the week. And how many times have we come here and have had very little new conversations about the teams in this conference, and it feels like, we're talking about, maybe a new coach here, a new quarterback there, but to have 2 programs come in that are considered to be top 10 programs in the sport, to be considered, elite venues, it is a unique thing to be able to talk about. And so for Greg Sankey, he wants to shine a light on that, and he doesn't necessarily want to say, oh, yeah, we're at 16. You know what? 18 sounds really good. How about we get to 20? They don't have to. Why would you have to do that when you have Texas and Oklahoma?
And I think that's what people misunderstand. But beyond that, we had 4 coaches today. That's the nature of the week. Brian Kelly was first up. Michael, that's always a big game for the school you cover. How would you frame where Brian Kelly is as he gets ready for another season with a lot of expectations?
It's interesting because he was asked about his 2 previous years. In that first year, maybe they overachieved a little bit, and last year there were those really high expectations of preseason top 5 team. Of course, they go 10-3, but they lost a couple of really tough games, including that one to Ole Miss, that 55-49 thriller. And he said he's not in the expectations game, as coaches tend to do. But he did mention that year 3 in places he's been have tended to look pretty good. And I know there's a lot of change when you lose a quarterback like Jaden Daniels. It's obviously going to be tough, but it sounds like they have a lot of confidence in Garrett Nussmeier. That's going to be a really tough one for Ole Miss. That's at LSU. They don't win at LSU very often. It's going to be a night game. I think it's the 100th anniversary of Tiger Stadium or something like that specific game. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. LSU's never been an easy one for Ole Miss, but I think this year specifically, it's going to be its own beast.
I don't think LSU loses that football game. I think Ole Miss wins 10 games this year, but the 2 losses, I think that's going to be one. I think they lose that game to Georgia again. But it is interesting hearing Brian Kelly talk about this year 3. And I think if you are an LSU fan, you're right on that line of if Brian Kelly had done anything more through these first 2 years, you would have been, oh my gosh, over the top, giddy. Let's give him another extension. And if he had done anything less than what he's done, I think you would be looking at this of, this is it so far. And so I think that there is a pivotal year ahead. But it's interesting to hear him talk about his best player, Harold Perkins, and still figuring out the best way to use him. This is a guy who was a heat-seeking missile as a true freshman in this conference, and to see an 18-year-old kid able to take over games in this league is so rare. And to hear him talk about this plan that they still have for him, and we would have had him eat more, if we could have do things differently. It's like, well, man, I don't know. I think he's 217 pounds, 225 pounds, however he is. Put that guy in position to make plays, and that was obviously an issue for them during a year in which their defense was just a train wreck.
With Connor and the professor, Connor, there's so many things about you that I love, but my favorite is when we get you on the air and I just still see you in my screen, and I just kind of throw okay, so well, what are you really hot? And you come up with some hot take that. So I haven't really talked to you in a couple of weeks. So what is your preseason hot take? What's the hottest?
What could we dig into? All right, we were talking about Texas and Oklahoma before, right? I think Texas starts off 12-0.
Ooh.
I think Texas.
That's the Connor we love.
That's spicy.
Yeah, that's a little spicy. I think Texas wins that first game against Georgia, and I note that I said first game. I think they win that first game in Austin, wherein Georgia fans are going to have to take out a second mortgage on their house if they want to be able to go to afford that game. And I think they have a rematch in the SEC championship that Georgia wins.
Yeah.
And then I think they face each other again in the national championship, in which Georgia wins. I think Georgia and Texas play each other 3 times this year.
I knew that was coming without knowing it, because this guy just doesn't go, okay, Colorado's irrelevant.
I feel like you weren't caught off guard by this question.
No, I wasn't.
He's got the most nuanced. Last year I asked him something similar, and he goes into the national championship game, and Michael, he tells me who makes the winning touchdown or the winning.
It was Mike Bobo. His offense was going to collapse in the second half of the national championship, and Georgia wasn't going to beat Ohio State. I was dead wrong. I've since apologized. I was wrong about Mike Bobo. Confirmed good at his job. Has made a lot of strides.
Where do you dream this stuff up?
Paul, when we do this 365,
I wondered.
This is all this that's going around in this brain. There is not much else.
So in other words, I'm giving you too much credit.
Yeah, way too much credit. I do not deserve that. It's just that's
amazed when you come up with this stuff, because we all talk to people all the time, but most people go, I could be wrong, but you just lay it out.
Should I tell you why Texas is going to be 12-0?
Yes.
I think C.J. Baxter is going to be the SEC's leading rusher.
Here we go.
Very specific.
Yeah, very
I feel like I'm reading the old stat sheet, the play-by-play. Here we go.
Okay, I'll agree to disagree with Shane Beamer that everybody has to get through a gauntlet in the SEC with their schedule. Have you guys looked at Texas's schedule this year?
Oh, yeah.
Their only road game in the SEC until mid-November is at Vandy.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the Doors,
sure.
You get it. So we're talking about Texas having a very different schedule than what Oklahoma has. If Texas is catching Michigan at the right time, if they're catching Georgia a little bit early in the season, and again, that game is at home, and you look at their true road games, I think that Texas sets up really well because of what they return. They return 4 or 5 starters on that offensive line with a quarterback in Quinn Ewers who took that all-important next step. They have a backfield that is going to be tremendous with a really nice 1-2 punch with Baxter and Blue. And the fact that Steve Sarkisian just cranks out these unbelievable stud running backs year after year makes me confident in that group. And then defensively, I think there are a lot of guys in the back end after they lose Sweat and Murphy. You get what I'm saying. I think Texas, what they did last year, there's a reason we're talking about Texas in this way after they went into Tuscaloosa and they won that game by double digits. That's why we're not talking about Oklahoma in the same breath that we're talking about with Texas. So I am much higher on the Longhorns. 12-0 start, not quite winning an SEC championship.
Connor and the professor. You need to get this guy to come to your class. I mean,
I know. He's hard to schedule.
He can teach young, smart people.
Teach?
Nobody does it. No one's in your league when it comes to the hot take that actually has meat on the bone. I wish I could learn from you. Do you teach a class? I want to go to.
You should be on First Take too.
Yeah. I don't look, Paul. I don't know if I could take Stephen A's spot or anything like that. I think you are in rare air. You have the ability to bring more takes to the game than any of us combined. Probably sitting in this room.
I'm willing just to say anything. That's why. Hey, thanks you guys. Always great.